The Great Hall of the Galactic Concordat stretched across 300 meters of polished stone. 7 species had built this chamber together, each contributing materials from their homeworlds. The Vrexian delegation sat on crystalline seats that hummed with their bioelectric fields. The Kethrans preferred the warm pools along the eastern wall. The Mycolians stood rooted in soil beds, their fungal networks connecting beneath the floor. Representatives from the Sauric Union, the Pelthine Collective, the Haxor Dominion, and the Zell Commonwealth filled the remaining spaces. They had gathered to discuss a problem. A new problem. A human problem. Ambassador Thulrek of Vrek stood at the central podium, his forearms spread wide in a gesture of concern. The bioluminescent patterns on his carapace pulsed red and orange, colors that conveyed urgency to those who understood Vrexian body language. Members of the Concordat, Thulrek began, his translator converting his clicking speech into standard galactic language. We can no longer ignore the threat rising in Sector 447. The species that calls themselves humans has achieved faster-than-light travel. They have established 17 colony worlds in just 30 cycles. Their expansion rate exceeds anything in recorded history. A Kethran delegate surfaced from her pool, water streaming from her gill slits. Expansion alone is not a crime, Ambassador. The Concordat exists to facilitate peaceful coexistence, not to punish success. Thulrek's patterns shifted to aggressive purple. This is not mere expansion. Our scouts have observed their behavior. They strip mine asteroids with no thought for ecological balance. They terraform worlds without checking for indigenous life. They have engaged in 17 separate wars among themselves, even as they spread across the stars. 17 wars, Delegate Surash. They are violent by nature. The Mycolian speaker released a cloud of spores that the translation systems interpreted as contemplative doubt. We have reviewed the data. Humans are primitive, yes. Aggressive, certainly. But they are also fractured. They fight each other constantly. They have no unified government. They pose no real threat to species as advanced as ours. That is precisely the danger, Thulrek insisted. His lower arms manipulated a holographic display. Images of human cities appeared, sprawling and chaotic. They are unpredictable. They lack the wisdom that comes with age. They have developed fusion weapons, kinetic bombardment systems, and biological agents. They have all the tools of advanced warfare, but none of the restraint. A Sauric representative, barely a meter tall and covered in silver fur, chittered a question. What do you propose, Ambassador? Thulrek turned to face the assembly fully. Intervention. While they are still manageable, we approach their homeworld with a fleet large enough to demonstrate our superiority. We offer them a choice. Join the Concordat under our guidance, accept limitations on their expansion and military development, or face quarantine in their home system. Quarantine? The Pelthine delegate's tentacles writhed in distress. The Pelthines were peaceful traders, uncomfortable with military talk. You speak of blockading an entire species? If necessary, Thulrek said. Consider the alternative. In 100 cycles, perhaps 200, humans will have spread across 1,000 worlds. They will have refined their weapons. They will be impossible to contain. Better to act now when they respect our technological advantage, when they will see the wisdom of guidance from elder species. The debate continued for hours. The Mycolians argued for patience and observation. The Kethrans suggested diplomatic contact without military pressure. The Haxor Dominion, a warrior culture themselves, surprisingly sided with caution, noting that even primitive species could be dangerous when cornered. But Thulrek was persuasive. He showed recordings of human military exercises, their weapons tests, their entertainment media filled with glorification of violence. He presented economic projections showing human colonies consuming resources at rates that would create competition with Concordat interests within 50 cycles. He painted a picture of a species that would either need to be guided now or fought later. The vote took place under the chamber's central dome, where light from the Concordat's founding stars shone through crystalline panels. Each delegate registered their decision through their species-specific interface. The results appeared in glowing symbols that all could understand. 5 species voted in favor of intervention. 2 voted against. Thulrek's patterns flashed victorious gold. The Concordat has spoken. I volunteer to lead the pacification fleet. We will approach the humans with overwhelming force and clear intention. They will see that resistance is futile. They will accept our terms, and the galaxy will be safer for it. One voice rose in final protest. Scholar Mixon of the Mycolians, an elderly entity whose network had lived for 600 cycles, released spores that translated to grave warning. I must note my objection for the record. We know very little about human psychology. They are the first species we have encountered that evolved as persistence hunters, that developed civilization through competition rather than cooperation. Every species in this chamber evolved from prey animals or communal organisms. We may not understand how a predator species thinks. Thalrek dismissed the concern with a wave of his upper arms. They are flesh and blood, scholar. They require oxygen, water, and food. They can be killed. They will understand the language of superior force just as all species do. Your caution is noted but unnecessary. The preparations began immediately. The Concordate's military, rarely assembled at full strength, began gathering at the Nexus yards. Warships from 7 different species, each designed according to their own engineering principles, formed into a unified armada. The Vrexian dreadnoughts, massive and bristling with plasma batteries. The Kethran frigates, fast and equipped with advanced shields. The Haxor battle carriers, each holding squadrons of fighters. The Sauric stealth ships. The Pelthine support vessels. The Zell cruisers with their experimental weapons. The Mycolian bioships, living vessels grown rather than built. 3,000 ships in total, the largest fleet ever assembled by the Concordate. More than enough to intimidate any reasonable species into compliance. Thalrek stood on the bridge of his flagship, the inevitable consequence, and watched the fleet take formation around him. His crew worked efficiently at their stations, confident in their technology and training. They had no reason for doubt. The Concordate had existed for 12,000 cycles. They had welcomed 43 species into their fold, some peacefully, others after brief demonstrations of force. Not one had refused to see reason once confronted with Concordate power. Humans would be no different. They had to be reasonable. All intelligent species were reasonable when faced with overwhelming odds. The fleet engaged their faster-than-light drives. Space folded around them. They vanished from the Nexus yards and began their journey to human space. The trip would take 15 standard days. Thalrek spent that time reviewing the battle plans, though he expected no battle. This would be a show of force, nothing more. The humans would see the fleet, understand their position, and accept the Concordate's generous terms. He recorded a message to be sent to the Concordate Council upon arrival. We depart for human space with confidence and purpose. When next you hear from me, the human question will be resolved. The galaxy will have one more member species, properly guided and controlled. This is a great day for peace and order. The message was transmitted back to the Concordate homeworlds. It would be the last optimistic communication the Council would receive for a very long time. Thalrek had no way of knowing that he had just made the worst mistake in galactic history. He had no way of knowing that humanity had been waiting for this moment, preparing for it, dreading it since the day they first looked up at the stars and wondered what else was out there. He had no way of knowing that humans did not think like other species, that they would not calculate odds and accept the logical outcome, that they would rather burn than kneel. The fleet jumped toward its destination, carrying 3,000 ships and 7 species toward a war that would leave only ruins behind. The planet New Harmony orbited a yellow star on the outer edge of human-colonized space. 3 million humans called it home. They grew crops in engineered soil, raised children in prefabricated cities, and dreamed of the day when their world would be as green as Earth. It was a peaceful place, far from the political tensions of the core worlds. That peace ended when the sensors detected 3,000 unknown vessels dropping out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. Governor Sarah Chen received the alert in the middle of the night. She rushed to the command center still wearing her sleeping clothes, her heart hammering in her chest. The screen showed a sight that humanity had feared and hoped for in equal measure since they first left Earth. First contact. They were not alone, but this was not the friendly greeting humanity had imagined. The alien fleet formed a blockade pattern around the planet. Every ship had weapons active. Energy signatures indicated enough firepower to turn New Harmony's surface into molten glass. The communication came 30 minutes later. The translator algorithm struggled at first, then managed to produce understandable speech. The voice was artificial, emotionless, accompanied by visual data showing a creature with 4 arms and a shell-like body that glowed with strange lights. Humans of New Harmony. I am Ambassador Thalrek of the Galactic Concordate. You are hereby informed that humanity has been deemed a dangerous and unstable species. Your rapid expansion and militaristic tendencies pose a threat to galactic peace. The Concordat has voted to intervene in your development. You will accept Concordat oversight of your military and colonial programs. You will submit to technological limitations. You will join the Concordat as a junior member species, subject to guidance from elder civilizations. You have 12 standard hours to signal your acceptance. Refusal will result in the isolation of your species to your home system, enforced by permanent blockade. Resistance will be met with appropriate force. Governor Chen stared at the screen long after the message ended. Around her, the command staff waited in shocked silence. They had no military vessels in orbit. New Harmony had a few patrol boats designed to intercept asteroids, nothing more. The nearest human fleet was 3 weeks away at best. She opened a channel back to the alien fleet. Ambassador Tholrek, I am Governor Sarah Chen. I speak for 3 million humans on this world. We have no authority to surrender humanity's sovereignty. That decision belongs to our governments on Earth and the other core worlds. If you want to negotiate, you need to contact them directly. You misunderstand. Tholrek's translated voice came back. This is not a negotiation. This is notification. We do not recognize your fractured political systems. You will accept Concordat terms or you will be contained. The choice is simple. Chen felt ice in her stomach. She had studied history. She knew what happened when advanced civilizations met less developed ones. It rarely ended well for the latter. And if we refuse, then you will remain on your current worlds. Any ship that attempts to leave human space will be destroyed. Any transmission will be blocked. You will be alone until such time as you develop the wisdom to join galactic civilization properly. Chen closed the channel. She looked at her staff. They looked back at her with fear in their eyes. She knew what she had to do, even though it terrified her. She opened a channel to Earth and the other colonies, sending the alien message and her recommendation. The response came back within 4 hours. It was not what the Concordat expected. No. That single word, transmitted from Earth, from Mars, from the 63 human colonies, was unanimous. Humanity had spent 300 years clawing their way to the stars. They had survived wars, plagues, climate disasters, and the near destruction of their homeworld. They had left Earth because they refused to put all their eggs in one basket, because they believed in spreading across the cosmos as insurance against extinction. And now aliens appeared, not with friendship or curiosity, but with ultimatums and threats. Humanity's answer was the same it had always been to those who demanded submission. No. Tholrek received the response with confusion that shifted to anger, his body lights flashing red. They refuse? They see our fleet and they refuse? This is illogical. They cannot win. His tactical officer, a younger Vrexian named Sixal, pointed to new sensor readings. Ambassador, we are detecting movement on the surface. The humans are launching something. Their patrol boats? Irrelevant. Destroy them. No, sir. Not ships. These are smaller, thousands of them, tens of thousands. The screens showed a swarm of objects rising from New Harmony's surface. They were crude, barely more than engines strapped to explosive warheads, but there were so many of them. The humans had converted their entire stockpile of industrial rockets into weapons. Evasive action, Tholrek ordered. Point defense systems, eliminate those primitives. The Concordat fleet's automated defenses activated. Lasers and plasma bursts filled space, destroying the incoming missiles by the hundreds. But more kept coming. The humans had launched everything they had, knowing most would be destroyed, counting on a few getting through, and a few did. 3 missiles struck a Kethran frigate, overwhelmed its shields and detonated against the hull. The ship did not explode, but it listed, trailing atmosphere and fluids. 6 more missiles hit a Sauric stealth vessel that had moved too close to the planet. Its stealth systems failed, and follow-up strikes tore it apart. Tholrek stared in disbelief as casualty reports came in. 2 ships destroyed, 7 damaged. Against primitive rockets, impossible. Return fire, he ordered. Target their launch sites. The fleet's main weapons spoke. Plasma beams lanced down through New Harmony's atmosphere, turning missile silos into craters. Kinetic rounds struck factories and military bases. The bombardment was precise and devastating, but the humans had expected it. The launch sites were automated, the operators already evacuated. The real military bases were decoys. While the Concordat fleet destroyed empty buildings, The human population was streaming into underground shelters and transport ships hidden in canyons and forests. "They are escaping," Sixal reported. "Multiple small vessels lifting off from scattered locations. They are using terrain to mask their signatures until they reach orbit. Intercept them all," Tholrek commanded. But even as he gave the order, he knew it was impossible. The fleeing ships scattered in every direction. Some were destroyed, but hundreds escaped, jumping to faster than light speed before the Concordate ships could pursue. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, New Harmony's surface was scarred but not destroyed. The Concordate fleet had won, but the victory felt hollow. 9 ships destroyed, 23 damaged, nearly 2,000 Concordate crew members dead, against a colony with no military fleet. And worse, most of the humans had escaped. Tholrek ordered Marines to land and secure the planet. They found a few thousand humans who had chosen to stay behind, mostly elderly and infirm who could not make the journey. The prisoners were processed and confined. One old man, a veteran of some human war, was brought before Tholrek. "Why?" Tholrek demanded. "Why resist? You cannot win. We are more advanced, more numerous. Surrender would have saved lives." The old man looked at the alien ambassador with eyes that had seen too much. "You don't understand us at all, do you? You came here with threats and demands. You told us to kneel or be destroyed. Did you really think we would accept that? It was logical, reasonable. Maybe for you, not for us. You want to know about humans? We are the species that survived ice ages and plagues. We are the species that split the atom and walked on our moon before we even had computers in our pockets. We are the species that nearly destroyed ourselves a dozen times and kept coming back. You think you can break us? You just made the biggest mistake in your history. You are primitives with delusions of strength." The old man smiled, and there was no humor in it. "You still don't understand? That's fine, you will. You see, you came to one colony and lost 9 ships. There are 63 human colonies, and now you have made all of them angry. You should have left us alone." Tholrek dismissed the prisoner, but as he stood on the bridge of his damaged flagship, looking at casualty reports that should not exist, he felt the first touch of doubt. The fleet had won the battle, but the humans had fought with a ferocity that made no strategic sense. They had sacrificed everything to hurt the Concordate, even when victory was impossible. Then the reports started coming in from Concordate space. Human ships appearing without warning, not military vessels. Civilian transports, cargo haulers, colony ships, all of them loaded with weapons. All of them attacking Concordate targets without warning or mercy. The humans had gone to war. Not with strategy or careful planning, with rage. The war had been raging for 3 cycles, and Ambassador Tholrek no longer recognized the galaxy he had known. The Concordate fleet that had numbered 3,000 ships now counted fewer than 800 combat-capable vessels. The humans, who were supposed to be primitive and easily contained, had become a nightmare that haunted every corner of Concordate space. Tholrek stood in the war room aboard the inevitable Consequence, his carapace now scarred from 3 separate battles, his bioluminescent patterns permanently dimmed from stress. Around him, tactical displays showed a map of disasters. Red markers indicated Concordate worlds that had gone silent. Yellow markers showed systems under attack. Green markers, indicating safe territory, had nearly vanished. "Report," he commanded, his voice tired. Sixal, now promoted to fleet commander after her predecessor died at the Battle of Kelthus, manipulated the display. "The Haxor colony of Vrac 7 has fallen silent. That makes 11 Haxor worlds lost this cycle. The Dominion is requesting permission to withdraw its remaining forces from the Alliance." "Denied," Tholrek said automatically, though he knew it was futile. The Concordate was breaking apart. Each species now fought primarily to defend its own territory. "There is worse news," Sixal continued. "We have confirmed the nature of the weapon used at Vrac 7. The humans deployed a kinetic impactor, a ship-sized mass of iron and nickel, accelerated to 90% of light speed. The impact released energy equivalent to—" She paused, her patterns flickering with distress. "Equivalent to 1,000,000 fusion warheads. Vrac 7 no longer has a biosphere. The planet is dead." Silence filled the war room. The Mycolian liaison, one of the few still communicating with the Vrexian command, released spores of mourning. "They are using relativistic weapons. This violates every principle of civilized warfare." Tholrek would have laughed if he remembered how. Civilized warfare. The humans have no concept of it. They fight to exterminate, not to conquer. Every tactic we deem unthinkable, they embrace. The evidence supported his words. The humans had unleashed horrors across the galaxy. They used artificial intelligence to pilot unmanned ships, something the Concordat had banned for 8,000 cycles, after AI wars nearly destroyed several species. They deployed biological weapons engineered to target specific Concordat species, diseases that killed with terrible efficiency. They sent ships on suicide runs, ramming Concordat vessels at relativistic speeds. Worst of all, they targeted civilians without hesitation. Concordat colony ships, medical vessels, supply convoys, nothing was sacred. The humans seemed to believe that if they could not win, they would ensure the Concordat lost everything. How did we miss this? The Mycolian liaison asked. How did we not see what they were capable of? Tholrek finally had an answer to that question. He had spent the past 3 cycles studying human history, trying to understand the enemy he had created. We looked at their technology and thought we understood them. We did not look at their psychology. Every species in the Concordat evolved as prey or as communal organisms. We understand cooperation and hierarchy because our survival depended on it. Humans evolved as apex predators on a death world. He pulled up images of Earth, humanity's homeworld. Their planet tried to kill them for millions of cycles. Ice ages, supervolcano eruptions, plagues, megafauna that hunted them. They survived by being more stubborn than anything else on their world. They survived by refusing to give up, even when extinction seemed certain. And when they developed intelligence, they turned those survival instincts into culture. The displays showed human history. Wars that killed millions, yet humanity persisted. Disasters that should have ended their civilization, yet they rebuilt. They have a saying, Tholrek continued. Give me liberty or give me death. They mean it literally. They would rather die as a species than submit to us. We threatened their freedom, and they responded the only way their evolution taught them. They are trying to kill us all. A priority alert interrupted the briefing. Sixal's patterns flashed alarm. Sir, multiple human fleets detected entering Vrexian core space. They are heading for— No, they would not. Where? Tholrek demanded, though Dread already told him the answer. They are heading for Vrex Prime, our homeworld. Fleet strength estimated at 200 vessels, but these are not military ships. They appear to be modified colony ships and cargo haulers. Their hulls are filled with fusion warheads and antimatter containment failures. Tholrek understood immediately. The humans were not coming to invade Vrex Prime. They were coming to destroy it. 200 ships each turned into a massive bomb, targeted at his homeworld, at the birthplace of his species, at the world where 3 billion Vrexians lived. How long until they arrive? 6 hours. And our defense fleet? Engaged in the outer sectors. They cannot return in time. We have orbital defense platforms, but against 200 ships. Sixal did not finish the sentence. They both knew the platforms would not be enough. Tholrek made his decision. Evacuate the homeworld. Emergency protocols. Get as many off-world as possible. In 6 hours, we might save a few million. The rest will die because I started this war. To it. The evacuation began, but it was chaos. Ships designed to carry thousands tried to load tens of thousands. Orbital elevators, never meant to operate at full capacity for more than a few hours, ran continuously. Parents held children as they pushed toward departing vessels. The elderly were left behind, accepting their fate so the young might live. The human fleet arrived on schedule. The Vrexian defense platforms opened fire, destroying ship after ship, but there were too many. Nuclear fire bloomed across Vrex Prime's orbit as the human vessels detonated themselves, some hitting their targets, others simply releasing their payloads into decaying orbits. Tholrek watched from a command ship in high orbit, forced to witness the death of his world. Mushroom clouds rose across 3 continents. Cities that had stood for 10,000 cycles vanished in seconds. The defense platforms themselves were targeted and destroyed. When it was over, Vrex Prime's atmosphere was choked with radioactive dust. Its cities were rubble. Its people were dead or dying. 2.7 billion Vrexians gone. In one attack. Because Tholrek had thought humans would be reasonable, but the humans were not finished. Reports came in from across Concordat space. The Kethran homeworld attacked. The Sauric core colonies burning. The Pelthine trade hub destroyed. The humans had identified every important world in the Concordat and struck them simultaneously. They had hidden fleets for cycles preparing for this moment, waiting until they could deliver maximum devastation. The Concordat Council, what remained of it, convened in a hidden bunker on a minor world. Representatives appeared via hologram, their homeworlds too dangerous to leave. Tholrek stood before them, ready to accept whatever judgment they delivered. The Mycolian speaker, Ancient Mixin, who had warned against the war from the beginning, addressed him. Ambassador Tholrek, you led us into this catastrophe. 4 of the 7 Concordat species face extinction. The humans have destroyed 43 worlds completely. Hundreds more are damaged beyond recovery. What do you have to say? Tholrek's pattern showed only sorrow and resignation. I miscalculated. I thought military superiority would force surrender. I did not understand that humans see surrender as worse than death. I did not understand that they have been preparing for hostile first contact since they first achieved spaceflight. I did not understand that they would sacrifice everything, accept mutual destruction rather than submit to us. And now we must accept that we cannot win this war. The humans are willing to burn the galaxy down and we are not. They have already lost billions. They will accept losing billions more. We cannot match that willingness to sacrifice. We must retreat, hide, scatter our populations to make them harder to target, and hope the humans are satisfied with what they have destroyed. The Haxor representative, a scarred warrior who had lost 3 worlds, growled his agreement. The Dominion withdraws from Concordat space. We will defend our remaining colonies, but we will engage humans no further. This war is lost. One by one, the other species agreed. The Concordat, 12,000 cycles old, collapsed in a single session. Each species retreating to defend what little remained of their territory, each species hoping the humans would not pursue them into the darkness. Tholrek issued his final order as ambassador. All Concordat forces retreat from human space. Abandon all forward positions. Do not engage human vessels unless directly attacked. Send a message to Earth and all human colonies. We surrender. We will withdraw. We ask only that they stop the killing. The message was sent. 3 days later, a response came back. It was short. Withdraw beyond the barrier zone. Enter human space again, and there will be no mercy. We did not start this war, but we will end it. The Concordat obeyed. They had no choice. Zixil had been born 300 cycles after the war ended, on a world so far from the old Concordat territories that the war was nothing but legend to her generation. She was a Pelthene, her species having survived better than most, and she had dedicated her life to archaeology. The past fascinated her. The ruins called to her. Now at the age of 40 cycles, she floated in the observation dome of her research vessel, looking at what remained of Rex Prime. The planet hung in space like a scarred monument to folly. Its atmosphere had cleared over the centuries, but the surface remained mostly dead. Radiation levels had dropped to survivable ranges only in the past 50 cycles. Her assistant, a young Pelthine named Dor-Al, drifted beside her. Are you certain about this, Scholar Zixil? The ruined sector is forbidden. If the humans are still out there, we have detected no human activity in 300 cycles, Zixil said, though she understood the fear. Every spacefaring species told stories about the humans, the vengeful ghosts of the old war, the species so terrible they had nearly ended all life in the galaxy. And I have obtained proper authorization. The new council wants to know what really happened. They want the truth, not the legends. The research vessel, small and unarmed, descended through Vrex Prime's thin atmosphere. The landing site was a city that ancient records called Carthax, once home to 50 million Vrexians. Now it was rubble and rust. Buildings collapsed into streets, nature slowly reclaiming what little organic material remained. Zixil and her team exited the vessel wearing full environmental suits, though they were probably unnecessary. The radiation was low enough. The air was breathable, if thin, but protocol demanded caution in the ruins sector. They began their survey using ground-penetrating scanners to locate intact structures beneath the surface. Zixil had done this before on other dead worlds, but Vrex Prime was special. This was where the war had truly turned. This was where both sides had crossed the line from which there was no return. On the 3rd day of excavation, they found it. A bunker buried under 30 meters of collapsed buildings. The entrance was sealed but not destroyed. Zixil's team carefully cut through the door, revealing a darkness that had been undisturbed for centuries. Inside, they found bodies. Phyrexian civilians killed by the initial blast wave. Their shells cracked and their organic parts long since turned to dust. Zixil documented everything respectfully, aware that these were the victims of a war they had not started and could not prevent. Deeper in the bunker, they found something more valuable than bodies. A data storage facility, its power cells somehow still holding a charge. Zixil's manipulator tentacles trembled as she interfaced with the ancient systems. If this contained what she hoped, the data streamed into her portable terminal. Military logs, civilian reports, personal journals, and most importantly, a complete record of Ambassador Thalrek's command logs from the beginning of the war until the fall of Rex Prime. Zixil read through the night, her team sleeping in shifts while she absorbed the horror of what had happened. She read Thalrek's initial confidence, his certainty that humans would be reasonable. She read his growing confusion as the war went wrong. She read his despair as he realized he had doomed his species. One entry recorded the day before Rex Prime fell struck her deeply. I have spent these past cycles reviewing human history and psychology. I now understand what we did. We encountered a species whose entire evolutionary history taught them that submission equals death. When their ancestors faced extinction, they did not accept it. They fought, they adapted, they survived. For 4 million cycles, anything that tried to dominate humanity was destroyed or driven back. It is in their genetic memory, their cultural memory, their individual psychology. We appeared in their space and demanded surrender. We might as well have asked them to stop breathing. They could not have reacted any other way. We created this war by fundamentally misunderstanding who they were. But that is not the full story. I have also discovered something else. The humans were preparing for this. Not for war with us specifically, but for war with someone. When they first achieved spaceflight, their scientists and philosophers debated the nature of first contact. They created scenarios, war plans, contingencies. They called it the first contact problem. What if the aliens are hostile? What if they are more advanced? What if they want to destroy us? Their answer was to prepare for the worst and hope for the best. They scattered their colonies to make themselves harder to destroy. They researched weapons that could threaten more advanced civilizations. They created plans for asymmetric warfare. They made it clear through all their transmissions into space that they desired peace, but would wage total war if threatened. We saw the transmissions. We saw the messages of greeting and friendship. We did not see the guns they were holding behind their backs, hoping never to use them. We forced them to draw those guns, and now we all pay the price. Zixil found herself releasing spores of mourning, a peltine expression of grief. Thalrek had understood at the end, but understanding had come too late. She continued her expedition across Rex Prime and then to other dead worlds. The Kethrin homeworld, its oceans boiled away by orbital bombardment. The Sauric capital, where biological weapons had left the cities intact, but every living thing dead. The Haxor warrior moon, destroyed by a relativistic impact that had cracked the planetoid in half. On each world, she found the same story. Civilians caught in a war they did not understand, killed by weapons they had never imagined. The Concordat had waged war on humanity. Humanity had waged war on everything. On a human colony world called New Harmony, she found something different. The world was alive but empty. The humans had evacuated during the initial battle and never returned. Buildings stood intact, weathered by time but recognizable. And in the central square of the capital city, she found a monument. It was a simple stone pillar 3 meters tall, with text carved in human writing and galactic standard. Her translator rendered it. Here stood New Harmony, first human world attacked by alien aggression. 3,000 of our people died defending their homes. 3 million escaped to carry on the fight. We did not want this war. We begged for peace. We were answered with weapons. So we showed them what humanity becomes when cornered. We showed them the price of threatening our survival. We do not celebrate what we did. We do not glory in the deaths we caused, but we will not apologize for refusing to kneel. If others come after the Concordat, let them read this and understand. Humanity will not submit. Ever. We will accept friendship. We will accept peace, but we will never accept chains. Zixil recorded the monument and added it to her growing archive. She visited 40 dead worlds over 3 cycles of research. She documented the ruins of 7 civilizations. She pieced together the final days of the war. The Concordat had collapsed after Rex Prime fell. The surviving populations scattered to hidden colonies, hoping to escape human vengeance. The humans had pursued them for another 2 cycles, hunting down every military target they could find. Then abruptly the human attacks had stopped, not because humanity had won, because they had exhausted themselves. The war had cost humanity dearly. 8 billion dead, 30 colony worlds destroyed, their economy shattered, their fleet reduced to a fraction of pre-war strength. They had won, but victory had nearly destroyed them. The final human transmission to the galaxy, sent 50 cycles after the war began, was brief. Humanity withdraws to our borders. We claim the territory we have taken. We will defend it against all threats. We seek no further conflict, but we will remember what was done to us, and we will be ready if it happens again. After that, silence. 300 cycles of silence. No human ships had been seen beyond their borders. No human transmissions detected. They had walled themselves off from the galaxy, content to remain in isolation, or perhaps they were still there, watching, waiting, ready to respond if anyone else made Tholrek's mistake. Zixel completed her research and compiled her findings into a comprehensive report. She included the facts, the numbers, the timeline of atrocities committed by both sides, but she also included the context, the why, the how, the terrible, avoidable mistakes that had led to mutual destruction. She titled her report, "The Species That Would Not Kneel, A Complete History of the Human Concordat War." Before submitting it to the new council, she added one final note. This war should never have happened. It began with arrogance and ignorance. It escalated because neither side understood the other. It ended with ruins because both sides were willing to destroy everything rather than back down. Let this report serve as a warning. First contact requires wisdom, patience, and above all, respect. The Concordat forgot this. Humanity made them remember. May we never need to learn this lesson again. The new Galactic Council chamber looked nothing like the old Concordat Hall. It was smaller, more modest, built by species who had learned humility through suffering. Only 5 species had survived the war in sufficient numbers to maintain spacefaring civilizations. 3 others had been reduced to pre-industrial populations, clinging to survival on their few remaining worlds. 2 had gone extinct. Zixel stood before the council representatives, her research compiled into a holographic presentation that hung in the air above the assembly. She had spent the past cycle organizing her findings, verifying every fact, preparing for this moment. The truth of the human war, as it was now called, needed to be told. The council speaker, a Mycolian descended from Scholar Mixon's network, released spores that translated as formal greeting. Scholar Zixel of the Peltine Archives, you have spent 3 cycles researching the Forbidden Ruins. You have documented what remains of the war. We are prepared to hear your findings. Zixel activated her presentation. Images of dead worlds appeared, statistics of destruction, timelines of battles. But she did not start with the horrors. She started with the beginning. The war started with a vote, she began. 7 species decided that humanity posed a threat. They were not entirely wrong. Humanity was aggressive, expansionist, and heavily armed. But the Concordat misunderstood what those traits meant. They saw danger. They did not see desperation. She pulled up images of Earth, pre-contact humanity, their history of survival against impossible odds. Humanity evolved on a death world. Their planet tried to kill them repeatedly. Ice ages, megavolcanoes, plagues, predators. Most species would have gone extinct. Humanity adapted. They survived by being too stubborn to die. This created a psychology fundamentally different from ours. The council listened as she explained the human concept of liberty or death, their cultural horror of submission, their preparation for hostile first contact. She showed them Tholrek's logs, his growing understanding of what he had unleashed. Ambassador Tholrek believed military superiority would force compliance. Zixel continued. He was wrong. Humans do not think in terms of acceptable losses. They think in terms of acceptable sacrifices. They were willing to sacrifice everything, including their own survival, rather than submit. The Concordat was not willing to match that sacrifice, so the Concordat lost. A Haxor representative, a species that had once prided itself on warrior culture, spoke. Are you suggesting the Concordat should have fought harder? Should have matched human ruthlessness? No, Zixel said firmly. I am suggesting the war should never have happened. The Concordat had the power to destroy humanity, but not the will. Humanity had the will to die fighting, but not the power to win cleanly. So both sides destroyed each other. The real lesson is simpler. Do not threaten a species that prefers death to submission unless you are willing to commit genocide. And if you are willing to commit genocide, you are the villain, not them. The chamber fell silent. It was one thing to study the war academically. It was another to state the truth so bluntly. Zixil pressed on. My research is complete. I have documented everything. The Concordat's arrogance, humanity's ferocity, the atrocities committed by both sides. I recommend this information be preserved and taught to all spacefaring species. It must become required reading for anyone involved in first contact protocols. And what of humanity? Asked the Peltine Council member. Your report says they survived, though damaged. Are they still out there? Unknown, Zixil admitted. They withdrew to their borders 300 cycles ago and have not been seen since. They may have recovered and are watching us. They may have collapsed entirely. They may have evolved beyond the need for external contact. Or, she paused, considering her next words carefully, or they may be waiting to see if someone else makes the Concordat's mistake. A young Kethran diplomat, born long after the war, raised a question. If we encounter humans again, what should we do? Treat them with respect, Zixil said immediately. Offer friendship, not demands. Trade, not ultimatums. Remember that they are a species that has survived everything their universe threw at them. They are not to be threatened. But they are not monsters either. Before the war, human transmissions spoke of peace and cooperation. They wanted friends among the stars. We gave them enemies instead. The council debated for hours after Zixil's presentation ended. Some argued her report was too sympathetic to humanity, that it did not sufficiently condemn their use of weapons the Concordat considered unthinkable. Others argued it was too harsh on the Concordat, that it failed to acknowledge legitimate concerns about human expansion. In the end, the council voted to accept her report and add it to the official historical record. It would be taught in schools, shown to diplomats, and included in first contact training. The human war would become the cautionary tale that shaped galactic policy for generations. But acceptance of the report was not universal. Some species, particularly those who had lost the most, rejected the idea that the Concordat bore primary responsibility. They told different stories, ones where humanity were monsters who had attacked without provocation. These false narratives spread in some sectors, particularly those far from the ruins. Zixil found herself traveling the galaxy, giving lectures, correcting misinformation. She became the foremost expert on the human war, her name synonymous with the truth of what had happened. It was exhausting work, but necessary. The lies had to be countered. The lessons had to be learned. Then, 50 cycles after her initial report, something happened that changed everything. A trading vessel in the outer sectors picked up a signal. It was faint, distant, but unmistakable. Human language. A transmission from deep space, from beyond the old borders where humanity had withdrawn. The message was simple. This is the human exploration vessel Perseverance. We are on a peaceful mission to study local stellar phenomena. We mean no harm to any species we encounter. If you receive this message, please respond. We would welcome contact. The galaxy held its breath. Humanity had returned. Or perhaps they had never left, just watched and waited, testing whether the younger species had learned wisdom. The council convened an emergency session. Zixil was called to advise. The question before them was simple but terrifying. How should they respond? Some advocated silence. Do not poke the sleeping predator. Others suggested a military response. Strike first before humanity could rebuild their war machine. Zixil listened to the arguments with growing frustration until she could no longer remain silent. You are making the same mistake the Concordat made, she said, her spores releasing sharp rebuke. You are seeing humans as a threat instead of as people. They sent an exploration vessel, not a warship. They offered peace, not demands. They are giving us a chance to do this right. And if it is a trick, the Haxo representative demanded. If they are testing our defenses? Then we will have lost nothing by offering friendship, Zixil replied. But if we respond with fear or hostility, we will prove that the galaxy learned nothing from the war. We will prove that humanity was right to isolate themselves. Is that what you want? The council debated for 3 days. Finally, they voted. The response would be peaceful, cautious but peaceful, an invitation to dialogue, not a threat. The message was sent. Human Vessel Perseverance. This is the Galactic Council of Successor Species. We have received your transmission. We welcome peaceful contact. We acknowledge the mistakes of the past and seek to build a better future. If you are willing, we would like to establish diplomatic communication. Zixil volunteered to be part of the first contact team. If humanity responded, if they agreed to meet, she wanted to be there. She had spent her life studying the war. She deserved to see the peace. The response came 3 weeks later. Galactic Council, this is Captain Maria Santos of the Perseverance. We are authorized by the Human Federal Assembly to initiate contact. We propose a meeting at neutral coordinates. We will send 2 representatives unarmed. We hope you will do the same. The meeting was arranged. A small station in neutral space, with representatives from both sides and absolutely no weapons permitted. Zixil was chosen as one of the Council's representatives, along with a Mycolian diplomat. The humans sent Captain Santos and a civilian historian named Dr. James Chen. When the airlock opened and the humans stepped through, Zixil felt a moment of primal fear. These were the species that had destroyed the Concordat. These were the apex predators of legend. But then she looked at them, really looked, and saw past the legend to the reality. They were small, fragile-looking compared to most spacefaring species. They moved with caution, their body language carefully non-threatening. Captain Santos extended her hand in a gesture Zixil recognized from human cultural databases as a greeting. "Thank you for agreeing to meet," Santos said, her translator rendering her words into standard galactic language. "We were not sure anyone would respond to our message." "Thank you for reaching out," Zixil replied, extending her tentacles in a Peltine gesture of respect. "We have learned much since the war. We hope you have as well."